Tonight, lifting the lockdown.
It just went too far.
With half the country set to reopen.
We are very confident that we're going to have a vaccine at the end of the year.
Hope on the horizon, even with the death toll predicted to hit 100,000. This as the U.S. points to a Chinese lab in Wuhan as the COVID-19 origin point.
There's enormous evidence that that's where this began.
And
in a way, you could say I'm sticking up for him.
The president sides with his opponent as Joe Biden denies sexual assault allegations. Plus, Americans worship online.
There's nothing in the world like it when the presence of God comes in.
The coronavirus revival beyond church walls. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Hope on the horizon. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder. Tonight, the president says he's confident we'll have a COVID-19 vaccine by the end of the year. This as more than 500,000 Americans have been infected. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with our top story. Ben?
Well, Jenna, President Trump said his estimates were too low and now believes up to 100,000 Americans could die from the virus.
I used to say 65,000, and now I'm saying 80 or 90, and it goes up, and it goes up rapidly. But it's still going to be, no matter how you look at it, at the very lower end of the plane if we did the shutdown.
And now, as more than half the country eases restrictions, fear grows of a second wave.
The danger is a bounce back, a boomerang, where the disease seems to be going away and then reasserts.
Hardest hit states like New York and New Jersey opened up some outdoor spaces as protests broke out in California and Michigan, where stay-at-home orders remain.
It's devastatingly worrisome to me personally, because if they go home and infect their grandmother or their grandfather who has a comorbid condition and they have a serious or an unfortunate outcome, they will feel guilty for the rest of our lives.
This comes amid a growing debate over forcing people to wear masks, leading Ohio's governor to reverse the state's mandatory policy.
It became clear to me that that was just a bridge too far, that people were not going to accept the government telling them what to do. And so we put out, dozens and dozens of orders. That was one that it just went too far.
President Trump is also ramping up charges that China didn't go far enough to warn the world of COVID-19.
It could have been stopped on the spot. They chose not to do it.
The claims include the communist government misled people in order to keep collecting medical supplies needed to fight the illness. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo claims he's seen evidence the virus was the result of a horrible mistake in a Wuhan lab.
There is a significant amount of evidence that this came from that laboratory in Wuhan. I've seen what the intelligence committee has said. I have no reason to believe that they've got it wrong.
Now, the director of the National Intelligence says, look, the investigation is still working on the origin of COVID-19, and they have not made a definitive conclusion yet. Jenna?
All right, Ben, thank you. Over at the Supreme Court today, a day of firsts. For the first time in history, justices heard arguments by telephone.
Oh, yay, oh, yay, oh, yay. All persons having business before the Honorable, the Supreme Court of the United States, are admonished to give their attention, for the court is now sitting.
And along with hearing the case by phone, it was also the first time the High Court released live audio of arguments. Today's hearing was on a case over whether Booking.com can trademark its name. This new format is a product of social distancing, of course. 6 justices are over the age of 65, putting their health at greater risk during the pandemic. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice is siding with a Virginia church in its lawsuit against Governor Ralph Northam. Pastor Kevin Wilson of Lighthouse Fellowship Church on Chincoteague Island could face jail time and a $2,500 fine for holding a Palm Sunday service with 16 people in the pews, a violation of the governor's order limiting gatherings to 10 people. The pastor says the people were properly distanced in a building that holds nearly 300 people. The DOJ in a statement saying, quote, "The Commonwealth of Virginia has offered no good reason for refusing to trust congregants who promise to use care and worship in the same way it trusts accountants, lawyers, and other workers to do the same." Tara Reid is the former Senate staffer accusing Joe Biden of sexual assault, and she says she is not quite ready to respond to his denial. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us now with why Reid canceled a highly anticipated TV interview. Abigail?
Yes, Tara Reid was scheduled for her first network interview this weekend that she ended up canceling, citing threats to her daughter and herself. Well, meanwhile, Joe Biden appears to be moving on after personally addressing the allegations on Friday.
It is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Reid tells the Wall Street Journal she will eventually sit for a television interview, but right now she's digesting and processing everything he said.
Look, from the very beginning, I've said believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously. When she steps forward and then vet it, look into it. That's true in this case as well. Women have a right to be heard, and the press should rigorously investigate claims they make. I'll always uphold that principle. But in the end, in every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is the claims are false.
A potentially key piece to the puzzle is a nearly 30-year-old claim Reid says she filed with the Senate Personnel Office about the incident. 56-year-old Reid does not have a copy of the complaint and can't remember whether she used the word sexual harassment.
I am absolutely positive that no one that I'm aware of ever has been made aware of any complaint, a formal complaint made by or a complaint by Tara Reid against me at the time this allegedly happened 27 years ago, or until I announced for I guess it was in April or May of this year.
On Friday, Biden directed the National Archives to search Senate records in its possession for any record of this complaint and make it available. But the Secretary of the Senate responded that if such a document exists, legally they can't release it. President Donald Trump, who's no stranger to sexual harassment accusations, offered this unsolicited advice.
It's his problem, but I like to get in front of it, and I just deny it. If it's not true, you deny it. And I have not. I mean, I've been a total victim of this nonsense, false accusations.
Many Republicans, however, are outraged by what they call a double standard in how Democrats and the media are handling the accusations against Joe Biden compared to those against Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and cite the need for due process for everyone. Back to you, Jenna.
All right, thank you, Abigail. Coming up, what these allegations mean for Biden heading into 2020. We're talking November with our Faith Nation political panel.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back, and time now for our Faith Nation political panel. We're joined by veteran newsman Ray Suarez and CBN's chief political analyst David Brody. Both of you, good to have you this Monday. Ray, to you first. Regarding the sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden, do you think this is something he can weather politically, similarly to Trump in 2016?
It's going to have to be peeled back like an onion. We'll see what happens for the document search for the complaint against him that Tara Reid says she filed in 1993. We'll see if anyone else steps forward with either contemporaneous accounts. This is not something that's easily prejudged because there's so much that still needs to be known, but the Me Too movement has changed the landscape. It is not the kind of thing that you can just bottle up and make go away by a simple denial. We're past that point now.
Now, David, President Trump is in a pretty interesting predicament here. Does he go after Biden in this area, considering some of the past allegations against him?
Well, the traditional play is for a presidential candidate that's had these type of issues in the past to not go after Biden. So therefore, he'll probably go after Biden because he's not traditional. So that's pretty much my take on it. Having said that, we already know that he's given Joe Biden, in a way, some advice to just kind of, like look at these allegations and say, just not true. I mean, it's just kind of interesting how Trump is giving Biden advice over this. But look, I think ultimately the campaign knows exactly what they have here, and they have a theme of hypocrisy is what they want to pretty much center in on. And we saw that in a campaign ad that basically hit Joe Biden on the Tara Reid situation and the Me Too movement on hypocrisy. And they figure if they can go hypocrisy on that issue, they can take it to a whole nother level on a lot of other different issues too.
Now, Ray, the president has been criticized by Democrats for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. The polling also not great for him there either. Could he lose the election over this, or is it too soon to say at this point?
Well, look, 69,000 people are dead. Those obviously are numbers that are in flux constantly and will come to rest who knows where before the curve finally gets forced down. But you've got two long-tail problems here, the economy and the number of deaths. Cross-hashing is going to fill in socially. So by the fall, everybody will know somebody who's had it, who's been sick, or somebody who's died. And once that kind of virality in the communication sense takes hold, and fewer people can hide out in the idea that it's not real, it's going to be a tough issue for him, and it's going to be hard to explain away because there's so much tape with him minimizing it from February and March, and it's just very, very dangerous for him at this point.
David, you just spoke with the president's former chief of staff, Reince Priebus, about Trump's handling of this crisis. We do have a clip of that. Let's go ahead and play that, and then we'll get your reaction.
The battle lines have been drawn. Republicans and Democrats agree that the president is going to be judged based on how this response to the coronavirus is going. And so the press and the Democrats have only one thing on their mind, which is to crush President Trump every day on his response to the coronavirus, whether it's fair, unfair, pure lunacy, or just made up. But they know that they have to try to destroy the president based on his response. The president is dealing with something that's never been dealt with in modern history, at least since 1950, right? I mean, so we are involved in something politically we've never been involved with. The president's doing everything that he can. I think he's doing a remarkably good job. And there's not any other interpretation is revisionist history. It's trying to go back to, oh, January, December, if only this, if only that. Well, guess what? No one thought that we'd be where we are today in February. And so I think this is what it's coming down to. The president's done a good job, but who knows what tomorrow brings, right? We don't know. It is an unprecedented time, unprecedented politics. And I think the Trump campaign, the RNC, and the president are doing absolutely everything they possibly can do every day to be successful in November.
David, your thoughts?
Look, Reince Priebus is exactly right in the sense that the media and the Democrats know that this could be Trump's kryptonite. I mean, in essence, this could be the end for Trump if he doesn't get this right. I think he's 100% right. I will just say this, and something to what Ray said earlier, which is, look, there might be some damaging quotes from Donald Trump on videotape about downplaying it, but let's also remember there's also some damaging quotes from Anthony Fauci downplaying it as late February, saying he didn't think it was going to be as big of a deal as it is today. So, look, I mean, that cuts both ways, and I think that ultimately this administration, even though the president said he won't be judged by the actual reaction to this and what the administration did, no, I think he will be judged for the reaction, and I think that will determine whether or not he gets a second term.
Ray, final thought.
The press can exaggerate or under-exaggerate or play off or ignore. There's over 1 million people who've been sick with this illness, and there are over 69,000 people dead, and there's just no way to talk your way out of that. The idea that the press is going to change the fact that there's 22 million new unemployed people, I'm not buying it. Reince Priebus can say that all he wants. Beat up on the press is an old play. Doesn't hold water.
Yeah. All right, Ray and David, thank you both very much. And Ray, stick around after the break. His latest piece in the Washington Post and very personal struggle as a freelancer during this pandemic. We'll be right back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Tonight, America is on course to set a grim unemployment record, April being the most brutal month. A new jobs report expected this week will likely show the biggest monthly jobless increase to date. All in contrast to February, when joblessness was at a half-century low of 3.5%. In March, the U.S. economy lost some 700,000 jobs, the worst monthly decline since 2009. All a result of the coronavirus pandemic, which upended the American economy almost overnight. And Ray Suarez joins us once again as a freelance journalist and a contract worker. This hits home for Ray, and he's written about it in the Washington Post. Ray, it's a powerful piece, and we appreciate you coming on to talk about it tonight. We do want to hear about your experience. You know, you write, quote, you clung to the middle class as you aged, and the pandemic, it pulled you under. What made you decide to share your personal story?
I started to pull together a piece about older workers, and the numbers for older workers are really discouraging. If you experience job insecurity in your late 50s, it is very likely that you will experience a significant drop in pay when you get another job, and that it's going to take you a long time to get your next job. When where the place where I was working went out of business, I was confident after 40 years in the news business that it would be pretty easy for me to get new work. It hasn't been. I was doing all right, but then the coronavirus came along and swept away a lot of the freelance work, the discussions I was having about contracts to do work in the spring and summer. It's all gone. And, you know, I'll just have to make it on the money I've got on hand for now. I'm trying not to touch my retirement money. I'm not that old, and I'm far away from retirement. They tell you, don't touch your retirement money. But a lot of people, millions of men and women now, are short of where they should be before they apply for Social Security, and well short of where they qualify for Medicare. So they're just like caught between two stools. And I never thought it would happen to me, but here I am.
Yeah. You write about how you're in good company here. We're expecting some pretty depressing jobs numbers later this week. Ray, there's a story in your article about how you dropped your dental coverage and then you were riding your bike, you hit a pothole, literally. What happened?
The pothole was way deeper than I thought it was, so I really slammed my jaw and hurt my teeth very badly. But I had just 2 or 3 weeks before that dropped my dental coverage, and I was afraid to go to the dentist because I knew that they were going to tell me something was really wrong and it was going to cost me a lot of money out of pocket. So I rolled the dice and waited to see if the bruising and the pain would subside, because I just didn't want to take the risk of finding out something really bad had happened. It's brought home to me how precarious this kind of life is. We dropped that dental coverage to save a little money every month on our sizable self-insurance, our health insurance bill, and it ended up coming back to bite me almost right away.
Yeah. Well, it's a great piece, and I highly encourage our audience to read it. You can find it on the Washington Post's website. Ray Suarez, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story. And also, we should say happy anniversary to you and your lovely wife.
40 years. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations. And we'll be right back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
With church buildings shut down because of COVID-19, ministries are breaking new ground on the internet. As Paul Strand reports, it could bring about new revival.
Don't freak out seeing all these people jammed together. This was before mandated social distancing began. These worshipers gathered here in Toronto to pray for a global revival that would have greater impact than all that have come before. But how?
Revivals of the past have often been constrained by limits that the next big one may not have to suffer.
When revivals meeting in one location explode into bigger and longer events, they can often burn out the staff. As we see in this pandemic, ministries meeting online aren't confined to church walls. And as the name says, the World Wide Web means a single revival could go global.
And now we're in a whole different world where literally millions of people can watch this happening live online.
Daniel Kalinda's ministry has led tens of millions to the Lord.
You know, I remember reading as a kid in the Bible where it says that when Jesus returns, every eye will see him. I thought, how is that possible? And now it's a very easy thing to understand.
John Kilpatrick was at the center of the Brownsville revival.
Today, with the instant media, there's no telling what God can do in real time all around the world.
Even where powerful governments censor the internet, the digital age lets ministries work around authoritarian regimes.
Even the poorest people on the planet, they're starting to get cell phones.
Computer chips allow amazing miniaturization, like of the Bible.
We used to have to smuggle in paper Bibles. Now we've got chips. If you get caught, you can eat them. And his word now can get to every tongue, tribe, and nation.
Another factor, unprecedented unity now forming allows ministries big and small to all work together.
What the world's rarely seen is Christians getting past their divisions and denominational differences to act in unity.
There's a joining and a linking together of different ministries, of different movements, and even denominations. It's a God thing.
I don't understand why the streams were ever not together. We all have the same focus, the same passion.
John Arnott saw denominational lines fall in the 1990s revival known as the Toronto Blessing.
People came and they didn't care, and nor did we, whether they were Pentecostal or Catholic or Methodist or Baptist.
This will allow what Arnott and Heidi Baker have both prophesied, a revival that'll rush over the planet like a global tsunami.
It's really all of the streams, all of the rivers of the radical lovers of God from all over the planet just coming together. And as we come together, the wave just gets bigger and bigger.
The last great move of God is going to be God moving, where we're not just following a new teaching or doctrine or mission, we're really following the Lord.
In other words, Rick Joyner believes it'll be led by God himself and centered on his son Jesus.
And I think our hearts are going to be caught up and captured by Jesus. All things are going to be summed up in Christ.
The presence of God will descend in a mighty way.
There's nothing in the world like it when the presence of God comes in.
Kilpatrick believes it's what all mankind's been searching for to fill their hearts and souls.
But that presence, that glory is what we're made for. God genetically made us for the glory.
Lila Tarhuan has led intercessors for decades, believing as the world grows darker, great light and revival will arise to counter it.
For the church, our assignment is to push back the darkness so that his presence could come and the glory of the Lord can cover the earth as the waters cover the sea.
Kalinda believes this God revival will be bigger and better than the world's ever seen.
Nothing diminishes in God. That something about God's character, he always outdoes himself. The latter is always better than the former.
Paul Strand, CBN News.
That's all for tonight, folks. Have a good night.